I am a huge fan of the Metro games. For me, Metro 2033 was one of the first shooters I had played that had a more slower paced, semi-tactical feel to it, and I fell in love with it on my first playthrough. This leads me to about a few months ago as of making this video, where I noticed that the games were on a deep discount on Steam for their 15-year anniversary. I initially played through these games on console and had a good time with them, and figured since playing games on PC is a bit of a different experience than console, I'd give them another playthrough, hoping to rekindle that initial spark I had with the franchise. But instead of rekindling said spark, I found myself more frustrated and annoyed with constant bugs that would end up soft-locking me. But first, let's start off with a bit of history about this game. The game was developed by 4A Games, which initially consisted of 4 of the team members that had worked at GSC Game World on Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl. Upon their exodus of GSC, and as far as I can tell, they pretty much immediately contacted Dmitry Glukovsky. Oh, fuck me, I fucked that up, didn't I? They pretty much immediately contacted Dmitry Glukovsky, the author of the Metro books, about making a Metro game. And it turned out that Dmitry was a huge video game enthusiast and jumped at the opportunity to have his works turned into a game. Now, as far as I can tell, the development of the game went quite smoothly with no major hiccups or corporate interfering. But where there were some problems was with the game's initial launch in 2010. Whilst the game launched well on Xbox 360, it had a lot of issues with its PC port, these issues mainly being performance and technical issues. The most common complaints I found were it crashing on launch, buggy AI, and poor optimization, with it being very demanding even for high-end PCs. 4 years after the initial game's launch, Metro 2033 Redux would be released, which is a light remaster of the original game, which fixed a lot of issues the original game had, but also ended up having its own string of similar issues. The Redux version of the game is well known for being unstable, with its own unique bugs that weren't found in the original, and had also fallen under scrutiny by fans for having worse lighting, graphical effects, and atmosphere. But overall, this seems to be a similar story to Dark Souls 2 and its light remaster Scholar of the First Sin, where a lot of fans prefer the original version, whilst a lot also prefer the newer one, but both sides admit there are issues with both. Anyway, how about we talk about the story? As I mentioned before, the game is based on Fuck me, you get it, it's based on the fucking books. I have to say the cunt's name every 2 seconds, it's based on the fucking books. The game is set in Moscow after a nuclear war has completely decimated the Earth, leaving the air unbreathable and the surface flooded with irradiated mutants. The only people that survived this nuclear holocaust being the ones who, mostly by luck, were in Moscow's sprawling underground train system, otherwise known as the Metro. You play as Artyom, who has made the metro station known as Exhibition his home. Exhibition has recently been under frequent attack from a new type of mutant which people call the Dark Ones. In one of these attacks, you fight alongside an elite ranger known as Hunter. After this attack, Hunter gives you his dog tags and tells you to go to the Metro's capital, Polis, and tell his supervisors of the threat whilst he goes out and tracks down the Dark Ones. The following day, Artyom signs up for guard duty on a supply shipment which is heading for a neighbouring station called Riga. On this route you are attacked by the Dark Ones, but instead of becoming psychotic like all the others who have fought them, Artyom walks away unscathed. Anyway, fast forward a bit and you meet a fellow named Miller who helps you out with getting in contact with the council, but the council rejects the request for aid to Exhibition. Miller then tells you his backup plan to go to a rumoured underground missile facility called D6 and bomb the Dark One's nest thing they've made on the surface. You eventually find the location of D6 and set up a missile guidance system and destroy the Dark Ones. Now, that is the canon ending of the game. The other non-canon ending is that Artyom realizes through these hallucinations he's been having with the Dark Ones that they were actually trying to make peaceful contact, and that the psychosis most people encountered was a very unfortunate side effect of that. So Artyom decides to destroy the missile guidance system instead and save the Dark Ones. Now, those were just the cliff notes of the game's main story. Where this story really shines in my opinion is the world building and little details. For example, just looking at the weapons in this game, you can tell that they are mostly handmade, and this does a great job at showing you that these people are so desperate to survive in this dangerous world that they will make shotguns out of bicycle parts and metal pipes just to defend themselves. Another great piece of world building the game does is showing you how the people of the Metro have made their own community. For example, let's look at the weapons again, specifically a gun called the Bastard. If you read the description for this thing, you'll see that the reason it's called the Bastard is because it has a tendency to overheat, so you'll commonly hear people who use this weapon swearing at it, calling it a bastard of a gun. On the most part, I think that Metroid 2033's story is fantastic, but where I do have my gripes is Artyom being a silent protagonist. Now, for the most part, the game is written well around this, but there are some moments where people will ask Artyom a question and respond as if he answered, but because he's a silent protagonist, he obviously didn't say anything.
Artyom, are you okay? Great, we'll wait for you. Meanwhile, look for an exit.
I didn't even say anything. He goes, oh yeah, great. This only happens a few times throughout the story, but it really throws you out of the melancholic mood the game is trying to portray, because it's kind of funny when it happens. Anyway, let's talk about the gameplay. Now, I am going to do a lot of complaining here about the bugs I experienced throughout the game, so I want to preface this by saying the console version of this game works completely fine, and when I played it a few years ago, I didn't encounter any bugs at all. But let's start with the positives. Gunplay feels great. I genuinely enjoy shooting all the guns I use in this game and have no real complaints on that front. This is also one of the few games where I actually enjoyed the stealth. Even though it kind of works like other stealth systems, having to rely on audio cues instead of a basic detection meter and having to make sure you aren't standing near a light source in order to avoid detection gives the stealth a sense of tension I don't really get in other games. Oh, and not having 4 stealth sections is just a huge plus for me in any game. I hate levels in games where you insta-fail if an enemy even smells the sweat in your ass crack from 10 meters away. Enemies are also just really fun to fight, whether they're mutants or other humans. Now that that's over with, let's talk about the bad, starting with something simple. No FOV slider. This isn't a big issue, however, as you can just change it in an ini file, and changing it doesn't break the game in any significant way. But these next 2 issues are ones I frequently came across and kept soft-locking my game. The first being night vision just completely breaking the game. In the console version of the game, night vision is a huge upgrade to your arsenal, as it allows you to see in the dark without enemies being able to see you, and it makes the harsh world of Metro feel a little bit easier. However, in the PC port, turning the night vision on would, for some reason, make it unable for me to shoot, reload, stealth kill, or interact with anything, and that includes turning the night vision off. This would obviously cause me to get soft locked, having to restart from checkpoint. Why can't I take my night vision off now? I can't do anything, what the fuck? Can't shoot or anything. Can't aim. What the fuck? Oh, there we go. Now I can... I believe they may have spotted me. What the fuck? This happened again. I can't do anything. I can't aim or shoot or anything. Why does this keep happening? What the fuck? Why does this keep happening? Is the night vision actually bugged to where I can't use it? Because whenever I try to use night vision, this happens sometimes. Now, the obvious fix to this would be to just not use the night vision, right? Well, there is another bug where in certain cutscenes where you can't control Artyom at all, he will just randomly turn the night vision on, giving you a 50-50 chance on whether you can just turn it off after the cutscene ends or be forced to restart from checkpoint. And these checkpoints will be at the beginning of an entire stealth section that you now have to replay through. Another issue with these cutscenes is if you are in one of the game's many defense sections and you get thrust into a cutscene whilst aiming, the game will completely break and you'll be forced to restart from checkpoint, which is usually at the beginning of the defense section, forcing you to replay it again. And this time you've got to try and do it without aiming so you can actually continue the game. All I can say is thank fuck the shotguns are powerful in this game, otherwise I'd never be able to do this. What the fuck? Can't shoot or anything again. I can't unaim either, I'm stuck like this at the moment. What the fuck is happening? Okay, I guess I'll just have this gun stuck on my screen now. My FOV is changing whenever I sprint. Hang on. Let's see if that fixes it. There we go. Is the game bugged again? That's like the 10th bug in the last hour. And again, he's put the night vision goggles on. I don't want him to. Let me guess, the game's gonna bug because I was aiming when that happened. This is really... You can't aim before a cutscene. It started me so far back as well. Also, one level in particular which I was very unimpressed with, that being the last level. You see, the rest of the levels in this game have a semi-openness to them where you can go off the beaten path to explore and gather supplies. But this last level becomes a full-on Call of Duty campaign level. What I mean by this is that in most COD games you are usually punished for going off the beaten path by failing a level because you didn't do exactly what the game wants you to do. The last level of Metro is like this, to the point where I ran ahead of Miller into this building and got my ass eaten by this flying thing. But after restarting checkpoint, I followed Miller, only to end up in the exact same building. The only difference being Miller walked down a path 10 fucking meters to the left of the one I walked down. Oh my golly goodness. What do you mean get back here? I ran too far forward, so I died. It says don't stop for a second, wants me to stop to wait for him. Fuck me.
Come on, let's get out of here. Go!
Oh yeah, that's why I died. I ran a little bit too far in front of him.
Take a look at that.
But anyway, those were my thoughts on Metro 2033. If I hadn't had previous experience with the game's console port, this review would be a lot more negative. And if I hadn't taken a day to collect my thoughts on the game, I may have forgotten to mention the far superior console version. So if you are going to play this game in particular, I recommend doing it on console. Anyway, that's it for today's video. If you want to see me play these games live, go follow me on Twitch. Bye.